So Echo Point Nova got its first real big content update this week, and I'm pretty happy with what we have. I don't usually cover game updates, but I said I would show for this game until I was dead, so here we are. Even though I finished the game 100% while making my original video, I still boot it up from time to time to just play a little bit. It's really nice to slide back into the saddle and become death incarnate on a hoverboard for 30 minutes to an hour. There's just a lot of satisfaction in a high-speed triple no-scope that I haven't had matched in any game really to date. I mention this because this isn't actually the first full update since the game was released and I made my video about it. In January, Echo Point Nova was updated with workshop support for levels, allowing community-generated islands. Not maps, islands. You subscribe to a workshop item and it just gets added to the game world seamlessly. I'm not entirely sure how this works if there's two islands that occupy like the same space, but there is a reshuffle workshop locations option in the settings, so the placement might just be region-based. I'm not sure. I also have yet to see any conflicts, and I have a decent few levels installed, so it's probably fine. And these can be made in the in-game level editor that was in the game at launch. I still don't know how to properly use that, so I can't speak to it, but what you're seeing right now is a custom map from the workshop, so it's got to be pretty robust. I mean, also the base game was made using that level editor. The dev made it so he could make the game. It's a good editor. I just don't know how to use it because I'm dumb. The workshop update also added some more cosmetics, specifically stickers for your hoverboard. It's a relatively minor thing, and I presume most players wouldn't really care, but it's a fun addition to play around with. The actual editor for this is also well done, allowing placement around the full board with sizing, rotating, and layering tools to get the exact look you want. I know that's not a super impressive feat as far as game development goes, but it's easily one that a developer could just phone in with shitty controls and lackluster selection, so it being fully fleshed out shows that they care. What I find really neat is that the workshop maps and the stickers are tied together. Completing workshop island scans and their subsequent challenge scans awards the player with workshop XP orbs. Collect a few and you gain a new sticker slot. Really simple. That way, if you want to play around with the stickers, you also have to play around with some custom levels. Though this might be a little bit unpopular of a concept, I'm not entirely sure. I can imagine there's some people who don't really want to have user-generated content forced upon them in order for them to play with official content, but since it's an optional cosmetic, I think it's okay. As of making this video, there's already 90 custom islands on the workshop, so there's plenty of choice, and a lot of them are really, really cool, as you're seeing here again. But as I said, that was a minor update. The major update I want to talk about released a few days ago on March 9th. The primary feature is an entire new game mode, the Rogue mode. To be honest, I didn't really expect a new mode so soon, and I definitely didn't expect a Rogue mode until I thought about it for like 5 minutes while I was driving home from the store, and I remembered that Severed Steel had a Rogue mode in it, so of course it was going to get a Rogue mode. I don't know why I didn't think that was going to be added, but whatever. It has most of your standard aspects of a roguelite. Clear a certain number of scans to get to the final challenge, and if you die, you restart. There's also a rogue shop for permanent run upgrades you unlock through gaining XP. These upgrades include starting with some random perks and weapons, starting with a few specific perks, increasing hit points, or just being able to start a run with a few scans finished. XP is gained through all the usual means, killing enemies, completing scans, and collecting orbs. In the normal mode, these orbs here upgrade your movement abilities as they're the agility orbs, but here they're just served to give XP. They're not as important as the agility orbs in the base game, but they are still pretty important to seek out because they give a lot of XP. Gaining the XP levels up your rogue shop, giving you more space for upgrades, and your level stays as is upon death, making it a light with a T instead of a like. What I really enjoy about Echo Point Nova's rogue mode is that the map isn't limited. Generally in roguelikes and even in the Severed Steel rogue mode, you're given either a randomly generated dungeon based on some set parameters or a set of pre-selected levels. But since Echo Point Nova is an open world game, you can just pick and choose what islands you want to do and also just explore the map. In fact, taking some time before doing a bunch of scans is a pretty good idea. Also, the islands from the workshop will load in, which is pretty cool in my opinion. It's a good idea to explore as much as you can if you have difficulty with games, because just like in the regular mode, you can find hidden perks throughout the world, not just attached to the scan completion. As far as I can tell, they're randomly placed, but slightly tied to the amount of scans completed. I keep getting perks that work very well with my playstyle, like Trauma Team and Ricochet, so either I was getting really lucky or there's just a little bit of deck fixing in play. Exploration also yields these artifacts, labeled on the map in pink. Collecting these adds 1 open point to the rogue shop apiece. I don't precisely know how many there are on the map, but they seem to take up some spots where there would be hats or perks in the regular game. While the world is the same, the collectibles aren't one-to-one. For example, there really isn't any hat gathering that I can see in rogue mode. The collectibles are all perks, artifacts, and XP orbs. The XP orbs as well, while they are the exact same as the agility orbs, appear significantly less in rogue mode. This is offset by the fact that even though you keep the XP, all of the orbs reset when you die, just like the rest of the world. In addition, each scan completed gives a guaranteed 2 perks and a large amount of XP. So even if you just want to speedrun and forego any extra exploration and you have the skills to do so, you can just run through the scans no problem. But this does end up with an interesting dilemma that I really like. The quick start perk that starts a run with 2 completed scans that I'd mentioned earlier just adds a value to the scans completed factor. Every 2 scans increases the difficulty, much like how in the base game mode, increasing player health increases the difficulty as well. But you wouldn't have actually done those scans, so you don't get those guaranteed perks or experience. Meaning without any exploration, you may end up underpowered for some of the later scans. And I'm not sure if this is intended or not, but the quick start doesn't merely start the run with completed scans, it just adds them on when you activate it. So if you've already done 2 scans in a run and then purchased the perk, it'll automatically bring you up to 4. And there's 7 separate instances of quick start in the rogue shop that do stack, meaning once you hit level 30, you can just skip all the way to the final scan right from the beginning. Considering everything said here, that can be a blessing and a curse. Thing is, quick start doesn't cost any points. You can choose this perk along with all the other items to make yourself more powerful at the beginning of the run. You can still spend the points on a couple favorite weapons, perks, and HP upgrades. And also the random starting perk options don't cost any points, with a total of 5 in the shop, meaning with a bit of luck, you could end up with a great set of perks ready to tackle the final scan no issue. With all that said though, you would have had to have reached level 30. This would require multiple failed runs and a shit ton of exploration to achieve, considering how the leveling scales. Therefore, it's not as if anyone would be robbing themselves of an experience to do so. And of course, these perks are optional, so you control the buttons you press and all that. And as I said, with being able to pick and choose what islands to perform the scans on, a run can be as easy or difficult as the player wants it to be. If you like fighting mechs or want to utilize the new short circuit perk, pick an island you know mechs will spawn on. Hell, if you want to fight any of the bosses, you can do that too, though I don't really recommend it. On the higher difficulties, as you complete scans, enemies get tankier and deal a lot more damage, and with how bullet helly the bosses are, it can be a swift and painful death. Ask me how I know. As for the scans, they all run about the same. Each scan save for the final scan consists of 3 waves. The first one just being normal and the typical spawn pool of the island, and the second 2 adding modifiers ranging from aesthetics like the paintball perk or nightmarish shit like reducing health and ammo pickups. The modifiers from subsequent waves do stack, so if you're unlucky, you could end up with harder enemies and reduced health pickups. But sometimes it's nice and just gives like funny hats and paintball, so it's just aesthetics and you can just go buck wild with fun. The modifiers can also change the enemy composition, adding more mechs, jetpacks, turret spawners, probably a few others that I didn't get to, who knows. I would like to see some variation in the scans though. It can get a little bit repetitive because everyone's 3 scans, it's the same few modifiers. I would like to see a little bit more variation in that, but I guess that's roguelikes for ya. That seems to be par for the course. After completing 14 scans or just using the quick start to skip to anywhere above 14, the next scan will be the final scan. I'd rather not go super into depth with it because discovery is half the fun, but it's more waves with some set modifiers and it is quite difficult. You can still choose what island to perform said scan on, so strategy is important. I will say though, the game won't count a boss battle as a final scan. It'll just add it on to the scans completed. Again, ask me how I know. After prevailing through the onslaught of difficulty that the final scan is, you're rewarded with a new achievement, some cheat options in the rogue shop, and the ability to prestige. Prestiging unfortunately doesn't really do that much. It resets progression to level 1, but you get to keep all your weapon mastery and skins applied, plus it allows you to pick one perk to permanently have for subsequent runs. The problem is that there really isn't a reason to do this. There's nothing to unlock, there's nothing to achieve. It's more to just do it again, but slightly easier due to a free perk. But I'm not entirely convinced it's easier because I think, and I'm not certain about this, I'm not 100%, but I think enemies do more damage after a prestige. So really, it's just for funsies or bragging rights. There's no other real reason to prestige and continue to go further. And if you just want to fly around and have fun, I mean, I just jump into my completed save on the regular mode to do that. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see more in the future. And that's the Rogue mode. All in all, a great addition to the game and a good way to kill a few more hours with fun, even though it doesn't really have a defined end state. The update also featured some small additions as well. 2 new official islands, 2 new weapons, and 2 new perks. The new islands, in my opinion, are pretty cool. Each has a lot of verticality and is on par with the rest of the game, which is really not much to say. I really don't have much to say about them because they're just maps. They're not really special. They're right on par with the rest of the game. They slot right in, and that's good, but there's not really anything special about them besides being the locations to unlock the 2 new guns. These 2 new guns are the XYZ and the light machine gun in the SMG and assault rifle categories respectively. The SMG kind of just feels like the other 2 non-P90 design SMGs but with a different sized magazine. I do prefer it to the other 2, but I vastly prefer the P90 type to all of them. The LMG on the other hand is awesome. Fastest fire rate of the rifles, and it does high damage as well. This is offset by heavy recoil and a mag size of 150 with no room for spare ammo. Mag dump the thing and weapon swap is the best way to use it, and damn does it feel great. The 2 new perks are really interesting, though I only found a use for one of them. The first is the super style, which turns on slow motion when you're in a flip mode, being upside down in mid-air. I generally try to avoid being in flip mode as much as I can because it heavily disorients me and totally fucks up my aim, but for those who like doing that crazy shit, I could see that being really, really useful. The other perk that I already mentioned is short circuit. This one simply heals the player 1 hit point upon killing a mech enemy. Typically, when enemies are killed, they'll drop like a health pickup item that you can run into and pick up, or you can shoot if you have the perk that lets you do that. But this perk will just fully add 1 hit point to your character when you get the kill, so it can be very, very useful for keeping up health at a distance. For my rogue mode runs, I've had it on 100% of the time because holy shit, I need the health. And while we're on the subject of mechs, this update also did a slight balance tweak to the health pool of mechs and airships, which honestly I really appreciate. Targeting the weak points would still make pretty quick work of these enemies most of the time, but they could still be bullet spongy and pull way too much focus away for too little of a reward. You'd have to spend on average like 3 times the ammunition on one compared to a regular enemy and still only get 1 kill to show for it. Now they're in a really nice spot where they're still challenging due to their offensive capability, but are still killable in a reasonable time frame. Overall, really solid update that gave a bunch of new content to play with and adds to the overall worth of the game. I'm sure we're going to continue to see further updates just like Severed Steel did, with even more weapons, islands, enemies, modes, etc. I don't know what he's cooking over there. I would like to see workshop support for community-made weapons, but honestly, I doubt that's really implementable. It'd be cool, but honestly, if that doesn't happen, it's fine, whatever. Either way, I loved the game before, and I love it even more now. Game links in the description. I believe it's worth every penny, but there is still that demo available for you to try out if you're unsure, though I believe it's worth every penny, on sale or not on sale, regardless. But if you're still unsure, there is the demo available on the Steam page, though I doubt it has the rogue mode in it. But that's all I have for you today. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and me, and I guess Tabs, because she decided to interrupt me while I was filming this bit, we will see you next time. You want to say goodbye to everybody? No?